So I've been using iPhone 14 Pro for the last year, and with the September event coming up and the iPhone 15 about to come out, I wanted to look back at how it's been. Starting with the aesthetics, I really still like the squared off design that they've been using since the 12. It's comfortable to hold, and the flat sides help me feel like I have a grip on it. Also, I can just prop the phone up on an edge, which is really convenient for shooting B-roll, or also, taking photos with a timer when I don't have a tripod. Granted, the sides are stainless steel, which I find a little slippery. Them not being rounded helps a lot with that. I would actually prefer the aluminum rails from the standard 14 for the feel and the matte look. But deep purple is like my favorite color on a phone. I know Apple doesn't usually repeat the Pro colors, but I want everything in this shade. Also, this is the standard Pro. I don't really like having a big phone since this is easier to use one-handed. In actual use cases like emails, web browsing, editing a script, like if I ever need more space, I find that the task is much more involved and I switch to my MacBook anyways. Honestly, the only times I find myself actually wanting a bigger phone is when I'm on an airplane, and it's usually just to watch a movie. For tech I carry around regularly, I want it to have the smallest footprint possible. I think my ideal phone size is like an iPhone Pro Mini, but that seems highly unlikely given that the regular Mini was dropped from the lineup. Let me know down in the comments what you think, but I'm sure there's a reason that most phones are skewing towards a up to 2000 nits in bright sunlight, which combined with the ProMotion display for 120 Hz is just a great experience. Scrolling and interactions are super smooth, and the screen's visible no matter where you are. I would say that the iPhone screen is one of my favorite displays in a phone, but I have also been working on a video about the Pixel Fold, which has a pretty nice outer screen, and I've really been enjoying it, so be sure to subscribe down below for that. Apple did add a couple things to help the 14 Pro screen really stand out with the always on display and the dynamic island. First up, the always on display has been really nice to have, especially once they allowed the option to turn off wallpaper. Along with the time and date, I like to keep either the next thing on my calendar or my to-do list on the left side and the weather on the right side. This is nice to have so I can just glance down for a reminder of what I should be doing or what's coming up. I also ended up turning off the notifications because they felt like they're a bit too on, if that makes sense. I kind of want it to be like the Pixel, where they're just icons for apps that have notifications, but they don't have the full banners, so it's a little bit more minimal. Also, the dynamic island has been a really fun update from Notch. Like, all the animations are really cool. It's well integrated, like Apple built software to make up for this hardware issue that they couldn't get around. And there's a ton of apps that take advantage of the dynamic island and have live activities. Uber and Flighty are a couple of my favorite third-party ones, along with timers, phone calls, and the current playing for album artwork, which is just fun. A lot like the Notch, I did kind of stop noticing it after a while. It just kind of fades into the background unless live activity pops up or it's being used in an animation. Also, my battery life has been pretty good. I average 3 hours of screen on time a day with another 3 hours of screen idle time. I can comfortably get through it the day, but I have been, trying to use my phone less. I turn off most notifications and I'm connected to Wi-Fi for most of the day. But I also generally have music or a podcast playing in the background while I'm at my desk or in the car. Also, after a year, my battery health is at 90% and I almost exclusively charge wirelessly. But moving on to the biggest upgrade and something I've really enjoyed over the past year is the new camera system. So first up, the main camera is updated with a 48 megapixel sensor, which is the first bump in resolution since the iPhone 6s got 12 megapixels. By default, this bins the pixels in groups of 4 to act as larger virtual pixels for an effective 12 megapixel resolution, so you get better low light performance given the larger photo sites. Also, you can save some space in your storage. But if you really want to, you can switch to ProRAW, and the 14 Pro will give you full 48 megapixel stills that have a ton of information in them for cropping and color correcting later on. But this also gives you a new focal length to shoot at. You're not limited to the 3 physical lenses on the back of the camera. So they now crop into the center 12 megapixels of that larger sensor for an effective 2x zoom, which is about 50%. And it's a nice middle ground to have between the main camera at about 26 mil and the 3x telephoto at around 75 mil. Speaking of which, the 3x telephoto got updated to have better low light performance with the new photonic engine. And it's nice to have this extra reach when you need it. But when it gets dark, the phone automatically switches to the main camera and crops in 3x anyways. So usually when it gets dark, I just shoot in ProRAW with a 48 megapixel still from the main camera. And then that way I can crop into 3x later on if I want to, or a little bit more. I think you go up to 4x with ProRAW. And I still have that wider shot. The ultra wide also got some updates for better low light, which is nice for macro mode. And I really like having just the ability to shoot macro in my pocket. It's just, I can just pull out my phone, take a really close up picture of something fun, whether it be for debugging things or just getting an interesting angle. And for video, it's just really good, right? Like I mentioned last year that the iPhone is my go-to for video if I don't have my Canon with me, and that's still true. They did add action mode for smoother, more stable footage if you're like running outside, but it requires a ton of light and it doesn't shoot 4K since it's cropping in a bit to get that stabilization. It's fun outdoors during the day in like the sun, but I'm sure they have future like improvements planned for it. But they did improve cinematic mode, so now it shoots up to 4K at either 24 or 30 FPS, and it's improved a lot from the 13 Pro. There are some issues when it tries to track things that aren't faces, but I love that you can modify the subject after the fact if you have two people in shot or if you have two things that you want to focus on. iPhone 14 Pro also has some safety features like satellite SOS and crash detection, neither of which I've had to use, thankfully, but it is nice to know that they're there in case of an emergency. And powering all of this is the new A16 Bionic. It is faster than the A15 Bionic, which is in the standard iPhone 14, but it's hard to say how much. Like the 13 Pro felt just as fast as this, and I don't think either is gonna feel slow for a while. Overall, iPhone 14 Pro has been a great phone over the past year, and it will continue to be one over the next few years. Incredible camera quality, a stellar screen, and an all-day battery life make this a solid option even with the iPhone 15 lineup coming. But thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe for more videos about tech, cameras, and making. Here's a video about an AR monocle, and here's a video that YouTube thinks they're gonna like the best.